All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the November 2020 Franklin School Board. Before we get started, if you join us in a prayer.
Bow your heads. Lord, as we head toward the Thanksgiving holiday, help us to remember all the things that we have to be thankful for every day. We thank you for the beautiful weather we are having. We thank you that we are able to meet here tonight in person. We thank you for our students and staff and all their hard work to make school work during these unprecedented times. We ask that you continue to watch over us and be with those that aren't here this evening. Please watch over those that are sick and those that are struggling. Be with us this evening as we conduct our meeting. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you. I'll call this meeting to order. The first item on the agenda is our comments section. So we'll open it up for public comments. If you have any comments regarding the agenda tonight, please step up to the microphone. If you also would, make sure you stand in front of the microphone so we can hear you.
You need to, sorry.
Can you hear me? Is that on?
Hang on, we're going to get.
Yeah. Thank you.
This is actually related to our students going back to school last week, which was great. That finally we were able to get our kids back in school almost full time. I'm one of the parents that chose back when this started to have my children go back to school full time in school, in person, because that's how they grow, that's how they learn. That's mentally better for them. Since this has happened, middle school, high school, they have not been only 2 days in school. I have an AP student at home who's now dropped his grades. Not acceptable. I've done everything I can as a parent who works full-time, who my husband works full-time. We can't sustain this for very much longer without my student failing. That's not acceptable to me. Greenwood schools, I have friends that go to those schools. I understand they've gone back to hybrid as well. But those students have been in school probably almost full-time since the beginning of the school year. Several schools in Johnson County have been in school almost every day, or maybe one day where they weren't there, or maybe a week they had to take off because they had a lot of people out. Center Grove, when this came out, was just on the news this evening. Center Grove is still in person, even though it was recommended. Their student population is similar to ours in the middle school. They're doing the same things we're doing. I have only seen, I don't know the numbers as far as the exact numbers of how many cases we've had since we've been the way we've been, but it's maybe a handful, maybe 10 in the middle school that I've seen going through my emails, looking through and seeing how many actual cases in the school. I know there's going to be cases, we get that, but if there are too many cases, I understand, pull the kids out. If you don't have enough staff, you have to pull them out. I understand that. My concern is, I guess you guys have taken more of the passive approach because you don't want that many cases. But the students are the ones who are paying the price. Their mental health and their academics. I know honor kids that their grades are slipping. I understand there's tutoring, but I don't think that's the answer. The answer is they need their teachers. They need to be in person. They need to be able to talk to their friends. They need that. And so I just want my voice to be heard. For my son, my daughter, she's in elementary, so it's okay. They've been fine. But these older kids are failing. And I feel like you guys are failing them. And I've supported the school system. I've worked for the school system. And I don't understand, I guess, why we're doing what we're doing. I understand it's recommended. I understand the numbers have gone up. They're starting to go back down. But what's going to say we're not going to be sitting here in January in the same spot? So these kids have almost lost the full school year. So I just wanted my voice to be heard. I thank you for listening.
Well, thank you for joining, but so you know, as of this evening, all the schools in Johnson County, Center Grove included, is moving to the hybrid model because of the numbers, the cases that they've seen. But we want to work with you and for your child. So if your child is having problems, I understand you just said that the tutoring isn't one of the options, but we do have programs set up to help those students. But we need the students to reach out. We need you to reach out to the teachers,
You've done that.
to the principals. Keep working with us. We're trying to set up those programs to make sure that the kids have the support, the structure that they have until we can get them back in the classroom.
And will this be evaluated? Like maybe, you know, do they look at the numbers all the time? And maybe just because you don't have a board meeting doesn't mean that those kids, you might say, hey, okay, the numbers are back down, we're going to go back.
Yes, we look at those numbers every week.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thanks for sharing that. Any other comments? Okay, I'll open it up for the board comments as we go through our subcommittees. The Athletic Council, we have not met. Central 9, Mr. Wagner is not here.
May I interrupt on Central 9?
Yes.
Central 9 is having an ongoing discussion about future projects. And they've had a work session. They did present a couple different scenarios with regard to program offerings. And even as of today, they had another discussion on Thursday. They have a board meeting. I don't think that Mr. Wagner will be able to be there, so I'll at least be in attendance to listen. But one of the things that they're looking at would be adding on both physical plant and new programming, especially in the welding area. And that could cause us to come back around and we would have to pay a portion of that ask. And it's based on the AV of our community. So for example, one model that I saw was going to cost around $350,000 would be our portion of that ask. If it does go through, there's a whole lot of, 1028 hearings and some other things would have to go into play. But I wanted to make the board aware of that, so we have that ongoing conversation with both C9 and for us as well as a community.
Thank you. Collective bargaining, no update since the contract was just ratified here a month ago. Communications Committee,
We have not met.
thank you. Legislative Council, he is out tonight. Mental Health, Becky? Haven't met? Okay. Music Council, is that,
We haven't met, but we do have some presentations this evening on the agenda.
okay. And then RDC,
Nothing pertaining to the school.
okay. And Superintendent Strategic Council.
Yes, we did meet, and then we have a meeting next Thursday. And during that meeting next Thursday, we're going to be looking at redistricting options. One of the things that we do know is that Franklin is a growing community, continues to have new home builds and new opportunities for families. And that does cause some growth questions for us. And in addition, we also have some federal laws that are playing out before us. Every Student Succeed Act requires us to look at how we fund each school. So we need to get some more balance. And it's been a long time. Back in the 90s was the last redistricting, I'm being told. So we need to look at that. So next Thursday night, we'll send a link out. We're going to do breakout rooms to talk about our redistricting map. What are some possibilities? What are some parameters? And then that's just the next step in the strategic task force, as well as the strategic plan. And then as we finish up the rest of the 2020 year, we'll continue to move forward with the draft. And then in the early part of winter in 2021, we will have our draft plan for the strategic initiatives for our district for the next 10 years.
Nice, thank you. To the board, any other comments? Vicki, you okay? All right, we'll move into the next item. Under recognition, we've got individual student growth.
Thank you. One of the things that we've looked at over the last few months is how do we continue to focus on what's important, the guiding principles of our district. And one of them, obviously, is individual student growth and having recognition. In a normal non-pandemic era, we have the kids come to the school board, we congratulate them, we talk to them about their journey and their future. So we're going to change a little bit of the format, but we're still going to recognize success and individual student growth in our district. So tonight, we are highlighting 3 programs.
Yes, this is one of our favorite times in our board meetings, so it's exciting to bring this back. We're going to start with the girls' cross-country team. The girls' team finished their historic 2020 season with a 15th place finish at the IHSAA state finals. Lauren Clem overcame a lost shoe early in the race to finish 27th. Seniors Lillian Lacey placed 45th and Sydney Clemens placed 130th to wrap up their cross-country careers. Jenna Newton and Sydney Woodward closed out the scoring in the 151st and 178th positions. Also competing were Mallory Luce and Aaron Tribeck. Congratulations to all the team members on a fantastic season. Excellent. We are also proud to announce that Franklin Community High School senior Sydney Clemens advanced to the semifinalist level of the National Merit Scholarship Program. Approximately 1.6 million students across the country apply for the program each year. Sydney made the original 50,000 student level earlier this summer and then moved into the final 16,000 student level. The committee will now take on a more detailed process of determining the finalists and the National Merit Scholars. This award could provide as much as a 4-year full tuition scholarship. Congratulations, Sydney. Excellent work. Finally, we have our Central 9 Students of the Month for the month of October. Each month, C9 asks their instructors to identify students who have shown character and work ethic to be named Student of the Month in each of their programs. For the month of October, we have 5 high school students that we would like to recognize. Haley Baston in Work-Based Learning, Cole Campbell in Diesel Service Technology, Alexis Lynch in Culinary Arts, Mitchell Runke in HVAC, and Landon Rusa in Criminal Justice. Congratulations to the excellent work of all of our students.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Worland. We'll move to the next item on the agenda is under the consent agenda. With that, I highlight that the board would like to extend a thank you to Mrs. Hull for her 22 years of service as she retires here at the end of this year. To the board, any questions under the consent? Then I move for approval. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Christy. Christy, how do you vote?
Yes.
Becky?
Yes.
I vote yes, so the motion passes. Thank you. All right, we'll move to the next item on the agenda, our superintendent's reports. First one is the senior projects presentation.
As we've had a continued conversation about the new journey for the state of Indiana and high school diplomas and college career pathways, we're pleased to introduce one of the main tenets that we're going to move forward with. So today we have Mr. Ahaus. Coming up, and Marcy and Steve will share a little bit about the journey.
We just want to give you an update. Believe it or not, we are doing other things other than COVID. So there are other things in the building that we are trying to get done. And one of those is just to come back and update you on graduation pathways, our senior projects. We've talked about this over the last couple of years when the graduation pathways program came in for the state of Indiana, and we kind of moved away from I-STEP and those requirements, and we talked about all that would go into having our students check off different boxes and get workplace experience or service experience. And so we are still on that same track to do what we hope to do, which was last year we had students graduate under graduation pathways, although iStep is still an option. This year we've transitioned more students to that direction, although iStep is still an option, and we're looking for the class of 2023 when that has to take full effect. Along the way, we've been talking and updated you on kind of where we've been in that process. Last year, we made the decision that one way to do this was to streamline our projects into a senior project, so that every senior had to do a project, and that project would be around community service. And there's a couple local schools that have done these for a while. It fits really nicely into the graduation pathways, and from our direction, all of the requirements would streamline, but students would still have the opportunity to choose, maybe an area of interest, a workplace area of interest, those kind of things. So we are still on the same track. So Mary Weedman has stepped in, and she started to take over the kind of the workload of that, and it's been a blessing. She's doing a phenomenal job, and we are probably well ahead of where I thought we could even be at this point, especially considering what most of this semester has taken on. So give her an opportunity to speak a little bit about that. You should have a folder that has information in it, which is kind of the rough draft start of it that we're going to keep working on. She has put all of that together, so I'll let her talk. And without going through all of it, it's just kind of a brief run over, and if you have questions, she'll be up here, and then I'd be happy to answer any questions as well, but at least give you a start to look at what we have in mind, and we can kind of keep working on it, and she can explain a little bit of the timeline and kind of what we have looking at this year and then the next couple years. So.
Thanks, Steve. And thank you guys for taking time out of your meeting to hear from us. Just a little background on myself. I am a teacher at the school. I teach family consumer science, and I am on my 5th year teaching. I still teach while doing this during the day too. Before being a teacher, I was actually working in social services, so I've got experience working with the caseload and organizing them, so this is honestly a dream job to me. So thank you for approving it, and thanks to Steve for trusting me to give it a go. I will get started just by giving a quick summary on what projects are, what the DOE really wants from us. They want the project to be related to a student's high school career. They want it to relate to something that they've learned, something that left an impression on them throughout their high school career. So it could relate to band and choir. I know we've got our instructors here. It could relate to their general education, just something that left an impact on them. It should also involve a hands-on experience that is totally created by the student. So it was my job to figure out how can I create an outline for them that they can ultimately take and run with and make it their own. That hands-on experience should involve research, higher order thinking, and it should also be something that's important to the student, something that has some kind of meaning to them. So I have been working with the IDOE and Michelle Clark, who is in charge of school counseling there and graduation pathways. She helped me put together this first page of your folder that you have in front of you. These are more specifics about what the IDOE really wants from projects, and that's what I based everything on. Michelle from the DOE says that so far we're on track. As long as you guys are on board, we can move forward. For our projects, I started off by giving our students a prompt. And the prompt is to create a project that addresses a community need and incorporates giving back. As long as they follow that prompt, they can really do whatever they choose, whatever is important to them. It could look like they are educating a group of people. They could be raising awareness for a cause or volunteering, but it should be something that pushes them a little bit outside of their comfort zone and to kind of take their thoughts to the next level. And that's where I come in to help them get there. We have 8 components to our project. So if you flip to the back of the first page that you guys have in front of you, our 8 components are, number 1, a project proposal. This is a really detailed proposal where they talk about what they want to do, why they want to do it. They do research, they relate it to their high school career. It's really in depth, so that's step 1. Step number 2, they have to fill out a contract with a community mentor, someone who has experience with something that they're wanting to do for their project. So if they're wanting to build a new storage shelf for a homeless shelter, maybe they have Mr. Hessman help them out with building it and putting it together. They have a time log where they put all of their hours together, a supervisor eval at the end to make sure that all of their employability skills were met, and they showed that throughout. They have a reflection paper, a letter to the judges, and then at the very end, they'll put a portfolio together that looks very similar to what's in your hands, and they will ultimately present to a board of community members about what their whole experience was. Logistically, I plan to have this take place during our coach classes, so they will actually have 3 adults helping them. They'll have myself, who is the grad path coordinator. I will have final approval over the proposals and making sure that they're pushing themselves. They'll have their coach teacher, who is going to help them through the different checkpoints, and the checkpoints are just that 1 through 8, making sure they get them done in time. And then they'll also have the experienced community mentor that they have to go out and find on their own. They will have a Google Classroom page set up that I will get formatted for all of their coach teachers that will have step-by-step what they need to do. And they will have 3 opportunities to present throughout the year. So if they get done first semester, they have an opportunity to present and be done, and then there will be 2 more presentation dates later on in the year. If you continue to look at the back of that first page, you will see my timeline for 2020, 2021. Basically, the rest of this semester, I'm going to spend my time putting together a trial group. I want to practice the senior projects next semester with a group of 30 before I do it with a group of 400, just to make sure that everything's going okay. My plan is to have that group put together by the end of December and have them start and finish their senior projects throughout second semester. And these would be students who are seniors that are graduating next year. So it would just be one thing off their to-do list and they don't have to worry about it. And then obviously over the summer, I will make adjustments as needed. And then by next year, we're good to go. This is how we're gonna graduate. That's really all I had planned to say. But if you guys have any questions or concerns, I'm all about collaboration. So I'm here to answer them if you have them.
No questions, but if we could arrange in that May timeframe to have a couple of the students come up to the board and present, that would be nice.
Absolutely.
Just to see the projects there.
And you can probably hear, but I mean, we will also just even in the once we get it going, we will need all the judges and people to help that we can get. So as board members, central office staff, I mean, we will need people to be a part of that. So you'd always be welcome to do that too,
Okay.
or even be a part of the actual process of the first group. Like that would be good. So.
Nice work.
Yes,
Thank you.
This will be great for us. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Sorry for calling you the wrong first name.
No,
You should've told me.
You were
Should
very
have said
close.
something.
I was nervous. I got
Yeah,
excited.
so was I. That was it.
And as our usual practice, we always have Mrs. Gross follow a nice topic with budget discussions.
I'm going to come to the podium this time so everybody can hear me. So, believe it or not, we passed the referendum 18 months ago. So, that tax kicked in January. We started receiving payments in June. And as promised, I will be here every November or December to report to the board and to the public on how we're using those funds. So, here we go. As you know, we passed a referendum of 23 cents. We committed to the taxpayers that we were going to use that on teacher salaries, support staff salaries, and mental health and safety. The estimated year-end referendum revenue and expenses, as you can see, we had an original budget of almost 3.5 million. Our projected actual revenues are more in the neighborhood of 3.9 million. About 400,000 of that is related to the miscellaneous taxes that go along with that, the lit tax, fit tax, excise tax. So bringing that total to about 3.9 million. Our estimated total referendum spend for 2020 is $2,789,288, leaving remaining funds of about $1.1 million. So I'll go through some detail on how that money was spent. Our first priority of teacher salaries. As you recall, we did a $2,500 increase to the base salary for every teacher. That totaled $972,000. We also increased our index for our extracurricular activity contracts. That was another $47,000. We added 4 new teaching positions to address some of the inequities in our average class size. That totaled $242,000. We did a couple of rounds of teacher catch-up raises, and this was where the board wanted to make sure that a new teacher with the same years of service wouldn't come in at a higher salary than an existing teacher with the same years of service. So that totaled about $97,000. We also did a catch-up raise for teachers that we had brought in with lesser years experience. During some of the years where we were suffering from circuit breaker, we brought a teacher in with 10 years experience, but only at the 5-year level. So with the referendum funds, we were able to go back and catch them up to that 10-year level. We also did $1,000 increases for master degree teachers, which totaled $128,000. We did a incentive for teachers to save their sick time, and once they reached that 90-day accrual, we added $1,000 to their base salary. That totaled $20,000. And then we did an HSA incentive program encouraging teachers to move from a PPO healthcare plan to an HSA plan. So that total is estimated to be about $100,000. So in total, in 2020, we spent $1.661 million on teachers. Now on to support staff. We also did a 10% base increase for support staff positions. 5% was effective in January, and then another 5% in July. On the agenda tonight, which I'll talk about in a few minutes, we're recommending a support staff stipend, which will total about $180,000. And then we also did the HSA incentive program on the support staff side for a total referendum spend for support staff of $728,986. And then on to mental health and safety. We invested $71,000 in our student resource officers. We invested $90,000 on a teacher on special assignment at CBIS. We hired our lovely healthcare coordinator, Ms. Sperling, with wages and benefits totaling $100,000. We also, about mid-year, decided to release funds for the social emotional learning interventionist, both at the middle school and high school. These positions are only funded for partial year, which is why they're so low right now, but you'll see that remaining cost in 2021. The CBIS interventionist started last week, so that salary will mainly be seen in 21. We spent $32,000 on our therapy dogs, our best employees yet. Another $8,000 in vet services, a little over $5,000 in contract services, and then almost $40,000 on the software license for Suite 360. For a total mental health referendum spend of $398,000. Now, I know Ms. Sperling will be on the agenda, I think, in January to kind of go through and drill down into these specific initiatives and how things are going and what she's planning on adding in 2021. So the next chart shows our percentage spent. So we've spent about 60% of our money on teachers, 26% on support staff, and then 14% on mental health, for a total referendum spend of about $2.8 million. And then my last slide highlights what we're looking at and have committed to in 21. For our teachers, we had some catch-up raises that went into effect the latter part of the year, so we'll have some additional expense once that kicks in at the beginning of next budget year. We've got a few master's degree increases. And then on the mental health and safety, like I said, adding those social and emotional interventionists will add more salary in 21. I also assumed that we would probably add that fourth interventionist position, a second position at the high school, so that's included in that $222,000. And then contract services, I also made the assumption that we would at least use $100,000 of the $200,000 that we had earmarked for contract services. And then on the support staff side, the $166,000 is the second half that was effective in July. So we'll see that additional expense in 21. At the last meeting, you approved a few increases for 3 director positions that we had. And then you also approved a 1% additional raise for the custodians. So in total, that adds about $667,000 of additional cost, but the net effect of that is only about $300,000 because some of those are one-time costs. We had I assumed that the 1% stipend would be a one-time, and then we had the August payment to the teachers of $1,250. That was a one-time. So the net effect of that is about $300,000. So our estimated total spend for 21 so far is about $3 million.
So the work for the support staff was to
Yes.
bring those salary categories up to the median level.
Mm-hmm.
Are there still categories that we need to be worried about?
There are quite a few categories that we still need to do some work on, and luckily we have some remaining referendum funds that we can do that with.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions for Tina? No?
It's a lot of numbers. Thank you.
All right, moving then to our transportation update.
I've asked Mr. Dickinson to come and share a little bit about the journey in transportation this semester. I will show the COVID dashboard in just a little bit, but one of the things on there, you would see the attendance and the stress that we're seeing out of transportation. Because that's one thing that I think sometimes we don't see as we're dealing with some other things. So Doug's here to kind of share a little bit about the journey and the story, and then to answer any questions. So Doug, thank you for coming.
Okay. Hi, everyone. This year, unlike the other ones, this year has been a struggle, to say the least. We started out the year, we lost 4 drivers to begin with by the end of August to neighboring corporations, and then we lost 1 that was an FMLA driver that was decided at best not to return. So we didn't get started off on a real good foot, but then as we've moved along, we've lost drivers due to close contact situations and things like that. And we've tried, me and Mr. Sewell, to look at different things on what we can do to try to alleviate that. And it seems like every step forward, we take 2 steps back. I've lost, counting this evening, I've lost 2 drivers since Friday and then this evening for 2 weeks for close contact situations to COVID. And then we have numerous drivers that are already doubled up on running routes. Before this year, we prided ourselves in that we had several absences, but we were still able to get the kids to school on time, and really no one really knew it other than us. This year, we've not been that fortunate. We've been short enough drivers to where we were just not able to get the kids home at the normal time, or in some cases to school at the normal time. We did work with Blackboard Connect and was able to not only send out messages, with which we was as far as verbal phone messages, but also text messages, which seems to be helping out quite a bit. A lot more people are getting the text messages to at least know and be aware that we're going to be late getting there. So that's something that weighs on me pretty hard. I don't like our kids standing outside or being late, and I know it's stressful too on the buildings to have to hold kids until we can make it back with the bus. Like I said, or what I should have prefaced this with is that there's a school bus driver shortage nationwide, and there has been for several years now. There's not a place you can go in the U.S. and not see school buses sitting outside hiring drivers. I go to a Region 8 driver or directors meeting once a month, and everybody's there telling the same story. And I know you guys have heard them on the news. Up north of Indy, they tried to get teachers to run bus routes and stuff, which was a good idea, but it didn't really net them anything. It wasn't no huge breakthrough or anything. And I think he said he only netted a couple drivers out of that, and there's too many things that come into play there. One thing that with us here is that, being our district is 112 square miles, we've got buses that travel out to the far outskirts, and then we got some that just stay in town. So we've got some buses that are traveling 30 miles and picking up 30 kids, and some buses that are traveling 4 miles and picking up 80. The problem we run into, especially with Custer Baker and elementary schools, since all of our K through 6 are on the same bus, is that there's not enough time between the elementary route and Custer Baker start times. So we're not set up at this corporation in order that we can go and drop off a load of kids, go out and pick another load up, and then come back again to the same. There's no one there to watch those kids due to contract times and so on. So we're kind of hamstrung there as far as what we can do. Me and Mr. Sewell have been talking, what if we were to change the start time of Custer Baker to about 15 or 20 minutes later. This would allow my elementary drivers at say Needham to go back out in Heritage and pick up Custer Baker kids, or those at Northwood to go back to the North End or to over in Oakleaf and pick up students, their Custer Baker runs, and so on. And we've got certain neighborhoods for about everyone but Union that would work out well at. But it has a few issues as well that would need addressed. One is that, now you move so that you have your Custer Baker students and the middle school students getting there about the same time. And so if you have parents, which we're asking them to try to bring their students right now, if you got parents traveling both places now, you've got an issue there. As well as, with the additional 15 or 20 minutes between start times, then you'll have students like in Union area and out in the Needham area that'll increase basically their ride time, even though they technically won't be riding. So I'm not quite sure yet. Haven't dug into it enough to figure out what we can do there. So it's, like I said, this year's been a struggle beyond most of the time, and you know, the drivers all receive raises and everything. So, you know, I don't think even though we're less than what Whiteland and Center Grove are, whenever you weigh in benefits and stuff, we're right there in the ballpark. So, you know, I don't know that, you know, if we started talking about wages, if that would bring us drivers or not. I really don't know, because like I said, it's short nationwide regardless, and, you know, everyone, even Whiteland's still hiring. So it's just an issue that we need to figure out somehow how to get drivers here and to keep them here. So, but in the meantime, again, it's in a world that I haven't been in since I've been in this position, as far as, you know, kids being late getting to school. And it's not a huge amount, but, you know, they're not missing half of the class or anything like that. You know, we're talking 5 to 10 minutes late. And, you know, Custer Baker, I know we've got a bus that gets there late to take students home. They get out at 3, and that bus is there about 3:20, 3:25. So that's by far our latest, but it's going home. We've got several that are doubled up right now, which, you know, if we go off the hybrid schedule, that creates an issue for a couple, which means that, you know, the ones that I've got doubled up right now, where I'm using different drivers in there so they can run a different route, that kind of goes away. But anyway, we've jockeyed it quite a bit. It doesn't look like there's an end anywhere near in sight. For right now, I hired a driver this afternoon, got her background check and had her in a bus this afternoon, and then got a call at 3:30 that I'm without a different driver for 2 weeks. So it's kind of one step forward and 2 back. So anyway.
Well, Mr. Dason, thank you for what you've done. Dr. Clendenning has shared with me the struggles, those misses on the drivers that we've had to quarantine and that.
Yeah.
Even though you've had a few buses that are running late, you're doing a heck of a job to keep what you've got going. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Yeah, like I said, it just, you know, it weighs hard on me whenever, you know, we have kids out there that aren't making it there on time that they should. You know, I don't like that for that to happen, but, you know, we've done everything we can right now to this point to try to eliminate it or keep it as minimal as possible, and we're just kind of at where we are right now. So.
Okay.
One of the major aspects of redistricting is going to be this conversation about buses and separation of time, going to maybe a 2-tier model to kind of help both Doug and his team, but also to help our teachers. So that will be a part of the strategic plan conversation. But I will tell you, Custer Baker is not only feeling it on that extra 15 minutes now inside the building. For the first time, the teachers have to pick those kids up right away, and that's a conversation point that we need to have. So that'll be continuing in the next several weeks, but I'm really looking at next school year. We will have a different format. I think we're going to have to, in terms of redistricting and what we need to do in our school district to sustain where we're headed.
Fair enough.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you want to share the dashboard now?
Yeah, Natalie, are you driving the computer? Can you go to our homepage on our website, please?
So if you go to the Franklin Community School webpage.
There have been a lot of questions with regard to the data that we get to see often, and how do we share that out with everybody. So we're trying to continue to provide up-to-date information and resources. So for everybody that's watching at home and in the audience, COVID dashboard is where you would click. So you click on that, please, and go ahead and scroll down. This kind of describes what we look at. Remember, we have 3 benchmarks heading into this COVID. And our ultimate goal, obviously, is to get every kid back to in-person learning in an unprecedented time. So you're going to see the 3 benchmarks that we're looking at: mask compliance, the COVID data for our respective schools, and then attendance. So the first one here you see, you're looking at the COVID data trending for our school district, broken down across what's happening. Okay, go ahead and scroll down, please. Keep scrolling. Keep going. The next is attendance. And this is one thing that people will notice. We have it broken out by school and for a 5-day period in the journey. Green indicates that we have less than 10% of our faculty out, where it says teachers. The difficulty column indicates to us how difficult was it to get that position filled. And so you can see Creekside, the last couple of days, they've had between 10 and 19% of their faculty members out. And to replace them, it's been a little bit difficult. As we scroll down to Northwood, you'll notice that they're red for the last 5 days. They've been hit pretty hard with COVID and contact tracing. And we're trying to show that in that 5-day period. Because remember, we talked to everybody as we move to phase 4 and we want to get to phase 5. Teacher attendance and getting kids to have their teachers is really an important part in how difficult that is. You'll see at Webb, you can scroll down, please, their journey. Custer Baker, you'll see that on the teacher absences, even today, they had only 4 people out, but it was still very difficult to fill that in. And why would that be? Because we're out of subs. On Friday, we had 50 people out. Today, we had in the mid-20s out. So as we see the pandemic continuing to grow, we see the impact of that. Not only are people getting out because they're COVID positive, but the contact tracing, as Mr. Dickinson just talked about, has that before us. You'll see the middle school, their data, high school data. Scroll down, please. The other columns, I'm just highlighting teachers, but we also have on there classroom assistants, cafeteria, custodians, because obviously all those play an important part in our daily walk as we travel to school to support learning for our students. Keep scrolling down, please. I'll stop right there. You'll notice transportation is on here, and you'll notice that it's in red across the board. If I were actually to open that up for everybody to see transportation from day 1, I think they only have about 9 or 10 days all year where it's not red. It's been a very difficult journey to help try to keep the kids safe, reduce contact tracing, etc. And then Cub Care's on there, as well as our preschool and after-school program. That is the attendance on the dashboard. Keep scrolling down. Keep scrolling. And then the last one is what we're wearing in the auditorium today. It's our mask compliance. You know, throughout this journey of COVID, we have 3 things right now that can battle the virus: good hygiene, social distancing, and wearing a mask. That's what we're being told. Here's our mask compliance for our school district. And remember, when we started back in August, this was also one of the tenets and benchmarkings. So you're getting to see our mask compliance. The kids and faculty are doing a very good job of keeping us moving forward. So that's the dashboard. We will update that similar to what's happening at the state level. The state releases their data on Wednesday at noon. We're going to look at that similar corresponding. And I'll just go ahead and talk just a little bit about moving back to phase 2. As we know, we all moved to phase 4 last week, and the intention was to stay in phase 4. We know we want kids to interact with their teachers. Their teachers are absolutely the best instructors. We would not be in a hybrid model if Johnson County did not move to orange. The Indiana Health Department strongly recommended and was endorsed by Dr. Moorman that we all need to be moving to the hybrid for that secondary setting. If we go to red, there's even some more constraints that can be put on us. We want to stay in hybrid, in both orange and red. If we can get back to yellow, that'll be awesome. We want kids to come to school. We want them to be a part of the journey. I think the board wants them to be a part of the journey. But as we move forward with that, we need everyone to please work together on this. You know, the spread of the virus, you know, we're starting to get big numbers. When we go back to phase 4 and isolation comes, it's gonna be bigger numbers. Last month we reported out, I think we had up to, and Amanda's here, 29 or something like that. It was a relatively small number of people. Is that right? Before October 7th, there's like 29 kids out. She's giving me a thumbs up. Today, we are exceeding triple digits. Today alone, 50 kids are out. So we know when we go back to phase 4, that's going to happen because we cannot maintain social distancing. The school buildings weren't built for that. And we're doing the very best we can. So we just need everybody to help us abate the virus the best they can, keep social distancing, and get us moving forward. We want kids to be with us. We understand the dynamics of play. So I want the community to understand that that's where we're headed, is to get them with their teachers. On the mental health side, that comes up a lot in the present conversation. We have resources available to us. You saw that contracting services. Remember, we partner with Adult and Child to give every kid at the high school an opportunity to interact with Adult and Child and kind of jump ahead of the services. And we worked in that program with Mrs. Sperling. So if a parent is struggling, please get to Mrs. Sperling on that. You know, one of the things that we did with the tutoring program was to partner college kids with our high school kids. It was really built for 2 reasons. One is obviously to help academically. But the second reason was to have the high school kid share their journey with the college kid who's also experiencing the exact same thing. And those kids that we've hired are our kids. They're Franklin kids. So they know the classes. And they're also looking at those journeys that they're experiencing to give that connected piece. We know the best learning is 5 days a week with their teacher. It's a pandemic, and we're trying to do the very best we can. This dashboard will continue to show our transparency. We'll continue to look at how to get that information out. And we're all striving for the exact same thing. Are there any questions about the dashboard or anything that?
Just say again when it's going to be updated.
Yep.
So we're clear on that frequency.
The state releases their data on Wednesday at noon. We will release our data sometime Wednesday afternoon.
Okay.
And we're going to look for teacher attendance in that 5-day window. Same with COVID compliance, COVID numbers in that 5-day window. Mask compliance, we'll have to change the dashboard a little bit because it is a year to date, but we can do that. But that's what we're looking at, Wednesday to Wednesday, to have that similar walk. I want to thank Mrs. Betts for helping us create the dashboard and information. If people see there's something they want to see, maybe an easier way to look at that, reach out to us. We're open to suggestions, but this was the best way we could envision kind of color coding it by school to give everybody a snapshot of the journey we're on. Thank you.
All right, we'll move to the next action item, or next section, which is action items. The first item is our administrator and classified stipends. Mrs. Gross.
Yes, so you have a resolution in front of you. We are recommending that the board approve a one-time stipend for administrator and support staff positions. We've designed the stipend to be the greater of 1% of gross wages between October 1st of 19 and September 30th of 20, or one of the tiered amounts outlined in the resolution. which includes employee who earned less than $5,000 would qualify for $100. Employees who earn between $5,000 and $10,000 would qualify for $250, and employees who earn greater than $10,000 in gross wages would qualify for $500. The timing would be in conjunction with the teacher appreciation grants. We have not received our distribution for those grants just yet, but we would anticipate that happening anytime. And as you know, we're on a strict timeline to disperse those within 20 days. So our hopes is that the board will approve these stipends for administrators and support staff to be dispersed around the same time as the teacher appreciation grant. And this is intended to be a thank you for the COVID-related work that has occurred in the last few months. A lot of people have put a lot of time and energy into making sure that students are in attendance and taken care of, and the buildings are clean, and the bus drivers are transporting, and all of those great things.
Any questions for Tina? And I move that we approve this motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Christy. Christy, how do you vote?
Yes.
Becky?
Yes.
And I vote yes, that motion passes. So the second action item we have is our second reading of the policies.
Thank you. Only one slight change on policy 3131. We've actually tabled that. We took it off today, and that is the reduction in force policy. We met with FCTA to go over it to make sure it aligns, because remember before it was in our handbook, and before that it was in our collective bargaining agreement. We're now shifting it to board policy, so we wanted to make sure everybody understood what it said. That will come back in December as the actual document. So that's the only thing that's different today is that policy being pushed to next month.
Okay, any questions? I move for approval. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Christy. Christy, how do you vote?
Yes.
Becky?
Yes.
And I vote yes, that motion passes. Okay, we'll move to the discussion section, our PAC safety discussion.
Dr. Warland last month talked about a meeting that she had with Music Council about this, and then I believe at the end, the board asked to have the directors come and talk about safety at this end of the building. We talk a lot about it at the other end of the building and on the west side. So here they are to discuss what it could look like as we continue to really want to make learning happen for kids. Mr. Kosh, thank you for coming, and I assume you're speaking first today then.
I am.
So
Good evening. Thank you for this opportunity for Mr. Hummel and I to speak with you tonight. I would like to briefly discuss our first experience for the instrumental music department this past summer and fall during these changing times to provide a student opportunity while promoting safety, and give some thoughts as we look ahead to the end of the first semester and the upcoming winter season. Marching band was our first experience, bringing students back after the end of last year and incorporated new safety procedures and protocols into our performing ensembles. Two re-entry plans, one for marching band and one for the school day, were developed, given to students, parents, and staff, and made available on our website. What are just a few things we did? We streamlined our methods of communication so it's easy for families to receive information and updates as necessary. We reduced the number of rehearsals and length of rehearsals. We rehearsed in sections with smaller groups of students, even more physically separated. We practiced outside as much as possible. Fortunately, we had great weather this fall season. We utilized musician masks and instrument bell covers, which I have here. Here's a trumpet with a bell covering. And here's a specially designed musician's mask, which works really well for all instruments except for flute. It has an opening that a mouthpiece can go through, but it still covers to catch any moisture. For flute players, it doesn't work well, so they've been using more of a surgical mask where they can put it through the side. The kind of material seems to stop that airflow, but it's still providing a level of protection. We carefully coordinated schedules to minimize traffic and congestion to allow the air in the rooms to refresh, using HEPA filters in the larger rooms of the Performing Arts Wing. We created routines for disinfecting instruments and equipment. All the directors and instructional staff followed guidelines and reinforced the importance of following them to students, and so on. These are just a handful of the many procedures that we researched and followed. We spent a good deal of time talking with other directors to see what they were thinking and what everybody could do to keep students safe. By following these procedures, we were able to have what felt like a somewhat normal season. We performed for 4 home football games while still following safety protocols, and actually acknowledged our senior members for the first time in a couple years without wind and rain conditions. That was a highlight. We also performed virtually. We submitted a video recording of our group for the ISMA virtual assessment in October, which we received a gold rating, so we're very proud of that. So overall, the students, directors, staff, and families had a very positive experience. The schedule was much different than in the past. We weren't able to participate in our usual contest or the Franklin parades, as those were canceled. But we felt we had a successful, meaningful marching season. For next year's marching band and color guard members, it won't feel like they're starting over again. The experience we had over the summer and have had so far during the first part of the semester with both our curricular and extracurricular groups working through the safety protocols and procedures has given us an idea on how to approach the winter. We continue to work with organizations in the Alliance for Indiana Music Education, mainly the Indiana State School Music Association, ISMA, Indiana Percussion Association, IPA, and the Indiana High School Color Guard Association, IHSCGA. The state level associations also work with national associations such as Bands of America, Music for All, and Winter Guard International. They are constantly sharing information and looking at ways to provide safe and meaningful experiences for students. Our state music associations and organizations are following the recommendations and guidance of the Governor's Office, the Indiana State Board of Health, and the Indiana Department of Education, and they will also support the recommendations and guidance of our local school districts. We want to be able to continue to provide opportunities during the second semester for our curricular groups, as well as our extracurricular ones, including the Winter Guard and Indoor Percussion Group. Currently, ISMA is planning for in-person large organization events in 2021, like the Jazz Festival and Organization Festival, to be in person. IPA and IHSCGA are still currently planning for in-person competitions as well, but everyone is aware that this could change at a moment's notice, and they have planned for multiple scenarios from limited audiences to no audiences to virtual performances. We're already seeing some changes for second semester. The Indiana Bandmasters Association All-State Band auditions and performance have switched to virtual events. The Indiana Music Educators Association All-State Honor Band has been delayed until May, and Winter Guard International has canceled all their in-person events for 2021, but will provide virtual experiences. As we did for marching band, we want to be able to continue providing these performances and competition opportunities to students. Because of the uncertainty for the end of the first semester, we are putting together a proposal that would allow our 3 concert ensembles and jazz band to record a holiday performance video for families instead of an in-person concert. This would ensure that students would have some type of performance that they could be part of and they could share. The last time that we performed on the stage was December. We have started to share information and proposals to be considered for our extracurricular ensembles as we start to look at designing their programs, looking at possible contest and travel plans, and possibly hosting events in Franklin. We will do the same for our curricular groups as we see how things progress. We would like to continue these discussions and answer any questions as we find ways, whatever that looks like, to continue providing these important experiences for our students. Thank you.
Thanks. I think one of the questions that we had when we asked for the pack to come in for yourself is how could we meet the current social distance, the current requirements, and still get your students inside, right? So the fall, like you said, allowed us to be outside, so we were able to meet those requirements, but there's an extra layer when we come in. We want to have performances. How can we do that looking for that input. Otherwise, we're going to have the same concerns that we have today. What's safe for the kids as far as that social distance goes, and keeping the audience. What is the size of the audience we would allow? What is the overall participation?
I agree. We're all trying to find that magic process to make all this happen.
Okay.
So right now, though, we would not, your concert in Christmas will just be on stage?
It's just a virtual performance. We
Okay.
just have to figure out how to make a recording, to do that safely. So there will not be an audience, just students.
Okay. And just to reiterate, ISMA really is looking to try to get back, right? Because I think that's one of the things we talked about the other day is they said, why does sports get to go and we don't get to go, we being performing arts? And we talked about ISHA said, we're going. Schools, you help figure it out, we're going to go. And then even today, I mean, unfortunately, as we get closer into the championship seasons, we're seeing schools no longer being able to play because of COVID, but they've got a good experience up until that time, right? So ISMA is coming back, right? Is that what we're hearing?
Right now, for the large groups, with marching band, one thing they couldn't do is make sure they couldn't be positive that they could keep everybody safe. So that's why they canceled their fall marching events. Solo ensemble will be virtual. That's a lot of individual students with lots of rooms at many schools. So for the large ensembles, that's something that's a little more manageable. It's one group possibly in one performance venue, possibly without a crowd. So at this point, they're looking at continuing that unless things get worse.
Thank you.
Okay. Any questions? Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity to come and talk with you tonight. My name is Michael Hummel, and I'm the head choral director here at Franklin Community High School. I am the president-elect of the Indiana Choral Directors Association and sit as the choral liaison for the Indiana Music Education Association as well. I have a presentation here that I have given to you. I'm not going to cover every single slide because it would take way too much time, but it does serve as evidence of things that I feel that we are doing, as echoed by Mr. Kosh as well. I mean, those things that were in alignment are equal and congruent throughout our department. Some of them may look a little bit different because our activities are different, but they are equally being done. I'm bringing to you tonight a couple proposals as well, but again, I am thankful to speak with you, and I'm proud of what choral music has become here in Franklin, and I believe it's been elevated to a point of pride, both here in our town, our city, and even our state. And I've been asked by Dr. Clendang to speak and on the current status of the program, and to present some important proposals for the program during this challenging time. My proposals really have four points to them, or four main items. And on slide 8 is where those proposals start. And the first is just the opportunities for growth. So as you can tell in the presentation, I'm approaching it in three ways. One, what are we doing to mitigate the virus? What things are we doing to keep students safe? And three, then what opportunities then am I proposing that we continue or try to look at implementing for student growth and opportunity? So the four main items, one is talking about rehearsals after school and how we manage that to be able to allow the group to rehearse as a group, as now we, even tonight, we may have been in a large room, but we are split up and we never can assemble as the group is intended. 2 is then how does that work for Christmas? 3 would be then what do we do second semester for contests and performances as information needs to be, we're on a timeline for that. And then 4th would be the possibility of what ShowFest would look like. And again, that could be a whole nother conversation because there's so much in that proposal that goes into how to run that safely. Those proposals and all the proposals I have with ShowFest and performance linked items are congruent with what ISMA and other local schools are doing to, again, keep students safe and in mitigation of the virus. ISMA is still in current meetings. The zone meetings are tonight and this week. There have been jazz meetings and other show choir meetings. And I know as far as show choir, what I know is that they are planning on having a season for show choir. And they have some guidelines for that as well. Those guidelines are also included in our proposal for ShowFest. I've given rationale for each of the proposals, and I guess the first one that for us to discuss and we think is important is the one for after school time, to be able to, in sequences, to be able to work together in as a choir would, on stage or on platforms, in masks, but obviously it couldn't be socially distanced to perfection. It's just not the activity. That is, I feel, important as we look to continuing the activity for the second semester, and again for the potential of having a Christmas performance. We are no longer, since we are in phase 2, feeling like we can do an in-person performance just due to the lack of time we see students, and just the current safety measures here, and having people in the auditorium to watch a performance. So we too would like to record, but in order to do that, we would have to have the approval to, with masks, to sing in a non-social distance environment as well. So as you can see, the mitigation strategies for performance would be to keep students in masks to perform. I would like to eventually, if not now, but think about what that would mean, since the opportunity to sing in show choir is a highly strenuous activity, and for not just the safety of those involved, but who, for COVID reasons, but also health safeties with breathing with a mask on in a highly aerobic activity, to be able to, for their safety, be able to allow them to not do that times that's deemed necessary if possible. Although we know that it is possible to perform in masks and to sing in masks. I'm speaking pretty clearly to you right now, and I think that is a good thing, but if I was aerobic for 15 minutes, that might become a little bit harder and a little bit less safe. I have linked in a article there as well to discuss, or that shows some information about the potential concerns for doing aerobic activity, such as our athletes do when they compete on the courts and out in the fields. All these proposals here have a rationale of something that guides them, which is that they're guided by the outcomes, the goals within the classroom. The classes are set up to perform as groups, and though we have worked well in quadrants, each choir right now, if for the size, is split into four parts. So I see students once a week, and they're split into 4. So me and my co-director see groups split in fourths. So it again, if you equate that to I don't know, a football team, you would see the offensive line one day and the wide receivers another day and the defensive backs and the defensive linemen the other day. So it's difficult to put together the whole as it is. We have been doing a good job with it as best as possible. Phase 4 was a great a great positive step forward to that, and to come back has been tough. But we're looking at doing what we can for the second semester to make sure that the program stays solvent, and that student interest and can stay consistent as well. We know that there's a lot weighing on their minds during this time and making it difficult for them to feel like what they're doing is actually beneficial and worthwhile, even though we're trying our very best to let them know that it is. So I do have in here, and I know you were asking about the PAC and how to do a seating chart. Doug Corliss worked with Emily Bradley, the secretary, on mapping out a socially distanced, it's slide 13 and 12 and 13, about the seating chart for what would be socially distanced in this building if you put an audience in the building, which would be 186 patrons. Percentage of seats used would be about 20%, a little over. So that's how that would look if you are interested in that. Anything going up in that would have to, you would sacrifice some 6 feet seating. That would be also, you can see seats are in groups of 2. Seats are in groups of 2 for that. The timelines for needing some of these proposals answered for us to be able to solvently move forward with the core program as soon as possible on rehearsals, slide 14, for rehearsals and for Christmas. We can record outside. We have rehearsed outside, so we rehearsed outside all the way through fall break, up to fall break. But now to record a performance, if we need to be inside, we'd have to do that in less than socially distanced lineup. We have mapped out, if we put our platforms on stage, that we could stand students' distance at 3.5 feet wide, 7 feet front to back, which is probably the most important, since that would be where you're singing, is front to back, and 4 feet horizontal. And you could fit with 5 rows. If you did 3 rows in the front, you could fit easily 70 people if you wanted to at that distance in this room full, and we have no groups that are larger than that. Also, from front of stage here to the first seats is, I think, at least 15 feet. And our performances, we would want to push students back as far as possible. Our proposal, though, isn't to bring in audience members, though, at this time, but just to have a space for recording so that we could then share the recording with our families. Rehearsal is the most important, as rehearsals going on now really predicate and dictate how we can move forward for semester 2. We're at a stage where we can do things in a large room, separated out, staying socially distanced and masked, but for show choir to create the pictures, and just like marching band, you have to be in formation. So to do formations, we'd have to sacrifice one of those. We'd have to sacrifice the social distancing to do that, at least for small amounts of time. For contests and performances, second semester, to hold our spots and to be able to guarantee us positions, the sooner that we know that we can do that and participate in those events, if they're being held, then that would help aid us in what we do for the rest of this semester, as well as what we're doing is geared directly towards that. ShowFest, the sooner the better, as we let schools know. Right now, we were going to a contest in March, and they've just decided to go virtual, but every other contest that I know of here in the city and state is still on for right now. Of course, those things could change, but we would rather like to be prepared in case they do go forward than to not. Also, financial considerations for paying for things and such The sooner we know things, the better, as far as moving forward. I did have an opportunity to give you a couple student perspectives in the slide presentation, so at your own leisure, you can hear it from them on what they're feeling, and what they are feeling is going well, and what they feel that they would hope for as well. Within this slide presentation, as well as information on where we are with the current numbers of the choral music program. I know coming back to phase 2 today was a struggle for our students. I could hear it, I could see it, and their fears are real about what they're doing. They want to feel like that they have an opportunity to do what they love to do. And for many of them, performing in the performing arts, whether it's band or choir, is their home, it's their place, it's what helps them to get up and come to school. It's what gives their life meaning, purpose, and it's a place where they feel like they can belong. But they also have a place of achievement and success and reward there. And that's why they're part of the performing arts, is to do the performing. And we know that that has been a challenging thing in our time. And if there's any way to let them know that those opportunities are going to be there, as long as we can let them be there, or allow them to be there, or hope for them to be there, then they will continue on this path. Many of them elect to be part of our groups because of that opportunity and what those opportunities provide them, both as people and as performers. My fear is that many students, without the opportunity to perform, will remove themselves from the program for second semester. In fact, I already know they will as conversations have gone on, and we're trying to keep them part of the program, which we feel is an important program, not just for Franklin, but for themselves, socially, emotionally. We feel like it's an important part of the fabric of what keeps students engaged here at our school. So the last slide on here isn't too important, except that fact that it shows you what other schools have done for performances here recently, of a variety of schools. And so might be some things to look at or have opportunity to check on. So again, I could have covered a lot, and it could have been a long conversation about a lot of things in here. But the 4 main things, the first one is just the opportunity to rehearse, if we can get opportunities to rehearse as a group. We're one of the few entities here at the school that has not been able to do their activity as it's laid out and how it has been made. And we would love to be able to do that. And to be able to do that, we have to practice that way too, if possible. So I know that's a challenge to think about it in this time. One thing I would say that we're probably thought of as one of the most riskier opportunities for students, but we have not had a student yet be out of school because of contacting or contracting COVID. We've had students out for the tracing because of who they sat by in other classes, but we have not had one. So our mitigation and our student safety has been a high priority and continues to be, and will continue to be even if we were able to move to the next level of development for our students. So safety has always been a priority and will continue no matter what we're allowed to do or not to. But my job as the teacher is to not just teach, but also to advocate for what I feel is important for our students here and for our shareholders here in Franklin. And I'll do that as best as I can. And if you have any questions or comments, I'd love to take those and answer what I can. If not, I'm more than willing to come back at any time and discuss those with you as well.
Thank you this evening. I think for me, both Mr. Hummel and Mr. Koch, your performing arts programs are outstanding, right? The challenge that we're asking from the board is, how do you manage exactly what you've laid out? How do you manage to keep the program going? right? So as you said, this end of the building, we're coming inside. I don't think you're any more risky than any other effort, extracurricular activity that we have. But if we come in and say, yes, you can start practicing, you can start getting together, the state numbers continue to go up and we move into the red category, we're going to have to react and make changes. And that should not reflect on your program. It should not reflect on this school, on our ability to set the plans, to follow those plans. It's the guidelines that we have to follow. That's the only reason why we're moving back to the phase 2 today, right? Is because the state changed those levels. And so we need your help along with that to understand and get those kids, helping them understand the reason for why the change. But when you come back and we look at Christmas programs and all, right? I'm looking for your input, not only to say this is how we're going to do it, how are we going to manage the audience? How are we going to manage the students to make sure that we have that safe environment? So, and you've laid out a lot of information here that we'll look through.
I believe a lot of that is in there.
Yep.
I could go point by point, but I know you could do that, and that's, you know, that's why I would just give it to you to look at, and then reach back out to me if you have questions on that. I wouldn't want to take your whole evening on that, but I think you will see that there's a lot of thoughtful process in that, and a lot of thought about how to do that and to continue to do that, in congruence to what we found with other schools and how they're doing things safely within their departments in this way, and then just with what our students and how it works with our building and what we're doing here too. So I really appreciate that, and we are trying to keep our students engaged. We really are. It's a battle every day for us. They're just looking to, you know, what can they do and what can they as a performer to do. So whatever you can do to help me with that, I would be grateful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Becky, Christy, any comments
No,
or questions?
Thank you. This was a very well thought out.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Okay, move to our next item, which is the board administrative comments. So open up for the board. Any comments for tonight's?
Nope.
Nope. And David will move to administrative comments. Tina, Brooke? No? Okay. We'll move to the next item then, the calendar.
Just a reminder, the upcoming Thanksgiving break, that we do have Brooke's team on the calendar. You want to talk a little bit about that?
For referencing the Wednesday before Thanksgiving break,
Yeah.
yes. Just as a reminder to everyone, as part of that time we were gaining back from the beginning of the year, that Wednesday before Thanksgiving break is an e-learning day, so all students will be in session, albeit from home.
Okay, thank
And
you.
we are looking at the schedule for the hybrid schedule for Monday and Tuesday of that week as well. So more information will be coming out about that week.
Okay, we'll open it up then for public comments. Any comments on tonight's agenda or any open topic, please step up to the microphone. You'll have 2 minutes. Mr. Scott.
Right off the bat, I want to thank you for creating the dashboard. It definitely helps us as parents understand where you guys are coming from, especially since the state is only using 2 indicators. And I'm a statistician on the side, and that is, you have less numbers, you're going to have a weird come out or result. And so with that being said, unfortunately, a lot of parents, sorry. All right. A lot of parents have had to set up their schedule for work. I am not one of them, but I know many of them are in different situations, especially if they work retail. When they see that they're going to go to phase 4, they know, okay, I can maybe open up my schedule a little bit more. I understand that we were put in a bind this past week, but we need to not quickly go from one phase to the next within a week. It puts a lot of parents in a situation that possibly could even endanger kids, and especially kids that are not able to be home alone because of whatever behavior or whatever situation. So I don't know what we can do. I know that we're in a pandemic situation, but unlike with March, we didn't have businesses shut down. So that's my only comment or request, that we maybe try not to quickly change so quickly.
Thank you. Any other comments? All right, seeing none, the meeting's adjourned. Thank you for attending.